Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Joined the Teen Ants, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. During Cinderblock's rampage, K-Moth, a gigantic humanoid moth-like creature, came out of his cell as Cinderblock S through its walls on his way to Slade's 0-point imprisonment. The first thing he set out to do was reunite with his wonderful kitten. His daughter. Kitten, he called out as he embraced his daughter in a big hug. He entered the home through the window and looked at his daughter, who seemed very pleased to see him. Have you been doing your homework? What's been going on? Are you still out with Fang? He said all this very fast and Kitten found it a little difficult to keep up. She leaped for joy and hugged him tighter. Oh daddy, Fang is so old news. I have Anthony now, she said, grinning broadly. She produced a photograph from her pocket. It was of a boy. He seemed normal enough, that is, if it wasn't for the giant ant that looked as though it were eating his head. In reality, it was his head. K-Moth looked at the picture with displeasure. Couldn't you have any normal boyfriends? He asked her. Kitten's face grew angry. There is nothing wrong with my boyfriends, she screamed. She straightened her back and walked stiffly out of the room. She smacked the table on the way, sending porridge everywhere and on K-Moth's face. Just how I remember her, K-Moth muttered to himself. Kitten went upstairs and began chatting like any teenager on the phone whilst lying on her bed with her legs crossed. Our Moth went to the living room to turn on his TV. The news was already on and he was about to change the channel, but the reporter suddenly mentioned the teen ants. K-Moth B began to boil. Memories of his defeat still plagued him. He had received help inside the prison, but it seemed the very mention of the teen ants had erased all that the doctors had done. He wanted revenge. Suddenly the house began to shake with Kitten's stomps of anger. Daddy, she called. She ran into the room and confronted her father. Anthony won't go to the prom with me, so I want Robbie Poo again. But sweetheart, K-Moth began whilst feeling frightened. Last time he ruined your $400 dress. With Punch. Do you know how hard Punch stains are to get out of clothes? I don't care, she screamed. I want Robbie Poo, now. She went suddenly calm. And actually it was that other girl that ruined the dress, she pointed out. But how are we supposed to get Robin to take you again? K-Moth asked. Suddenly the reporter's voice seemed to reach both of their ears. Reporter, there is a new teen and in the area. People are calling him the Golden Boy. His real name, however, is Naruto Uzumaki. Apparently from another dimension and seeking a way home. Kermit and Kitten didn't listen to any more. They smiled at each other as a trap revealed itself in their minds. Had they continued to listen to the reporter, they would have heard her say, this individual is responsible for taking down the infamous Slade himself. Can anyone beat this blonde-haired hero? The ants had attempted a daring stunt of stepping foot outside of the door. Before anyone could see it happen, Naruto was being chased around the entire sit by fangirls. He was not pleased. He ran and ran. He ran up walls, on top of buildings, and used jutsu to hide himself and to cause distractions. Yet they still found him and followed him everywhere. Leave me alone, crazy people. Naruto yelled as he ran down 51st Street. They ignored him and continued to chase him whilst yelling his name. He screamed and kept running towards the tower. He just managed to burst back through the double doors and barricade it with the sofa. He panted heavily. Naruto walked heavily over to a single chair and slouched in it with his arms spread. He was sitting in the chair for only a few moments before he heard a sound. Beast Boy walked into the living room and wondered why the door was barricaded. He heard a commotion outside and walked up to the sofa blocking the door. Changing into a green gorilla, Beast Boy moved the sofa and walked to the door. He opened it a fraction. Naruto heard a sound and looked up. Beast Boy was moving the sofa, now he was going to the door, and now opening the door. No. A warning bell sounded off in Naruto's brain. BEASTBOY. Don't. It was too late. The fangirls barged in and trampled over Beast Boy effortlessly. It were as if they were not multiple obsessed individuals, they were a single animal looking for a piece of meat. They rushed in and tackled Naruto to the ground. They once again began tearing at his clothes. Help me, he screamed. In his home world he had not much luck with women, but in this world they seemed obsessed with him, and he found he hated it. Suddenly all the fangirls were surrounded by a black shadow and lifted into the air. They were swung back and forth for a moment before being thrown out of one of the open windows and into the water surrounding the tower. Naruto looked around confused and saw Raven standing in a corner of the room. She looked indifferent at first, but Naruto noticed the single shadow of sadness or blush that flashed over her face. She disappeared quickly. Suddenly an alarm resounded throughout the building. The ants assembled in the living room and looked up at the TV screen where K-Moth looked down at them with menacing eyes. Kermit, how did you get out? Robin said with an angry tone. That is irrelevant. The giant bug spat. You should be more concerned with what I'm doing to your bridge. The image changed to one of the city bridges. The same one K-Moth had attacked before. He was apparently doing the same thing, ordering all of his mini-bugs to attack and eat away at the bridge cabling. But this time something was different. There was a lot more of them. Thousands more bugs than before. Not very original, is he? Beast Boy muttered with a single raised eyebrow. K-Moth, why are you doing this again? Robin shouted at the screen. The giant bug's face appeared on the screen again. Because, he stuttered. Because you must take my daughter to the prom again. He said rapidly. All the bee drained out of Robin's face. He seemed to freeze to the very spot with shock. His eyes were impossibly wide and his mouth was ajar. You okay? What's the prom? Naruto asked. Cyborg turned to him to offer an answer. It's kind of like a dance. Oh, Naruto said calmly. Suddenly he burst out laughing. You're afraid of a dance? He shouted, pointing at Robin and cackling. Robin's color suddenly returned with a vengeance and he turned angrily towards Naruto. I am not afraid. He screamed with steam coming out of his ears. Dude, yes you are. Beast Boy said with a raised eyebrow. But with good reason, that girl was crazy. I am not afraid. Robin screamed again. Naruto couldn't stop laughing. Stop laughing. Why? You're scared of a dance. Naruto could barely catch his breath, he was laughing so hard. If you're so brave, why don't you take her? Robin shouted. Naruto stopped laughing and looked angry. Is that a challenge? He shouted back. Yes. Robin and Naruto were almost touching foreheads, they were so close. Sparks of lightning and electrical fury flashed before the eyes of the others. A limo had been sent. Naruto couldn't believe what he'd gotten himself into. He hated dancing. It was sissy. It was pointless. He was just doing it to win a bet. But then again, why else did he do anything in his life? He had learned the Rasengan simply to win a bet. That and many of his other jutsus. He stood in front of a mirror in his room within the tower. He currently wore some black trousers, a white shirt and a black blazer. He had been told to wear a tie, but he didn't for two reasons. He couldn't figure out for love nor money how to get the blasted thing on. He didn't like it. He walked out and down the corridor into the living room. The ants were waiting for him, Robin with a big grin. Beast Boy seemed to be attempting to stifle a chuckle from his looks. Cyborg gave him a thumbs up. Raven glanced at him and quickly turned away to hide her face. Starfire's was the most memorable reaction. She looked at him and leapt with glee. You look so handsome, friend Naruto. She flew over to him and gave him a rather painful hug. Naruto caught a glance at Robin during the hug and he was sure, for some reason, that he saw anger and jealousy in his eyes. The limo that had been sent was completely white. It was long and came with its very own chauffeur. Of course Naruto knew none of this and had to be told by Starfire, who in turn had to be corrected by Beast Boy, who in turn again had to be corrected by Cyborg, who kept clonking the green one's head whenever he got something wrong. Naruto was still confused when he was halfway to the destination. Their destination was a boat. It was a cruise boat that was hosting the prom. It was very large and due to the high possibility of rain, it had a canopy room set up on the deck for people to dance and stay dry. Naruto made it to the part and was there a whole of 5 minutes before the others turned up. They had opted to come along to make sure nothing went wrong. Although Naruto had a slight incline, it was because there was a buffet table. Naruto wasn't interested in this as they had neither pizza nor ramen. And without pizza or ramen, he would not eat. They stood around for a while. The people around were of general and varied ages between teen and old. It was a little while before Naruto caught sight of what Robin had been so fearful of. Kitten. Robin had spared no expense in telling him of the entire incident that had happened before. Obviously to try and make Naruto back out. But Naruto never backed down. She caught sight of Robin and rushed over to him. "Oh, Robeypoo. Why aren't you dressed up? We must look our best for the dance," she cried, grabbing Robin's arm and trying to yank him to the dance floor. Robin pulled away. "I'm not going to dance with you," he said sternly. "What?" she screamed with fire in her eyes. "He is," Robin said, pointing past her to Naruto. She turned around and her eyes lit up. She dived at Naruto and gripped him in a hug that made him think she was stronger than Starfire, though he knew that was probably impossible. Starfire was incredibly strong. "Onarutypoo. She squealed. "I've heard so much about you." Naruto was officially terrified. She grabbed him, dragged him to the dance floor and began swinging him around in time with the music from the large concert stereo. Naruto was deathly glad when the music stopped and he could catch his breath, but his joy was short-lived as an even faster-paced song sounded out. "Oh, I love this song," she squealed. "Does she always have to shout?" he asked himself. He was thrown around and around like a rag doll. It seemed impossible that this girl could be so strong. Once that song finished, a slower one came on. Suddenly the girl stopped throwing him around and seemed to grow calmer. She held him close and they slowly danced. Naruto hated it even more. For some reason, dancing with this crazy girl, he felt ill. What no one saw was Raven. Behind all the ants, Raven stood with glowing white eyes and a look of rage on her features. She watched as Naruto danced with Kitten and her envy blazed within her like a wildfire. The majority of her self-control went out the window. It was all she could do not to blow up the area. Random things around her exploded. A punch bowl, someone's baguette, a shoe, a hat. Slowly and surely her control wavered. Naruto felt as though he were drowning. Kitten looked up at him fiercely. "K-me," she ordered. Naruto froze. What?" he stuttered. The very thought of this girl made his stomach churn. She pulled out a remote control. "K-me or I release the bugs and the bridge becomes chowder," she said with narrowed eyes. Naruto didn't know what to say. Kitten reached up and forced his head down. Their mouths met. Naruto wanted to Raven lost control. A large black aura surrounded Raven and she screamed in anger. "Get away from him," she yelled in a dual voice. Her eyes had become and bright red. The crowd parted in fright and she sent a black tentacle forward. Kitten screamed as the tentacle wrapped itself around her and lifted her into the air. The remote control fell to the floor and on the ground. Kitten was lifted up and Raven brought the girl right to her face. Kitten screamed. Raven sneered. The suspended girl was thrown away over the side of the boat and into the water. The other attendants of the prom ran out screaming. Soon there was no one other than the ants and Naruto. Raven collapsed. The aura and tentacles vanished, her eyes turned back to normal and she collapsed. Naruto caught her in his arms and looked down at her. Raven looked up into his eyes and slowly got to her feet. They were currently standing in the middle of the deck that had meant to be the dance floor. The music was still playing. Raven swayed on the spot a little, hugging herself. She slowly leaned forward and fell into Naruto's arms in a daze. She hadn't meant to do it, she was just so tired. She hadn't been that angry in years, and it hadn't felt good. But when Naruto's arms surrounded her, for some reason, she felt at peace. Naruto slowly swayed with the music, effectively, dancing with Raven. Robin and the others watched the scene. Usually they would take the mic, gawk or do something else. But strangely, none of them felt like it. They only smiled. "Come on guys," Robin said quietly. He led the others away. All but Beast Boy. Beast Boy was the only one truly affected by the scene. He stood gawking with jealousy and shock. Cyborg wrapped his arm around him and held him fast before Beast Boy could shout at the dancing pair. "Come on BB," he said, dragging Beast Boy away. They drove off in the T-car and left Naruto and Raven alone. Raven didn't know what was going on with her. She had never acted like this before. She certainly would never allow herself to be held like this, let alone danced with. But she felt safe. She felt secure. She felt at peace. She felt happy. The roof exploded. A crashing explosion through the night air and the canopy room exploded in a ray of black shadow. The entire boat rocked with the energy that was released in that one moment. Raven dashed back and protected Naruto from several large falling pieces. She stared at him with sorrowful eyes. "I can't," was all she said, and then she ran. She couldn't shadowport. She couldn't fly. She was too upset to concentrate. So she ran. As she ran back into the city streets, the lampposts around her blazed in light before exploding one by one as she passed them. Windows shattered, mailboxes melted, and cars were flung aside like paper. She had to get her emotions in check. She looked up and found herself in a huge field. She had no idea how she got there, but she didn't care. She screamed. She screamed and cried her heart out. Shadow tentacles rushed out of her like water and the dirt was flung up in clouds of dust and earth. Soon she was surrounded by a sphere. She crouched on the ground, clutching the earth in her fingertips and ignoring the events around her. 2 hours passed and she finally stopped crying. The air was peaceful as she lay on the grass. Her emotions, as they always should have been, locked away. She slowly got to her feet and looked around her. All forms of plant life had been obliterated and she currently stood in a large crater at least 15 times her height in width. The area was desolate and quiet. The city stood in the distance unscathed. Somehow she must have managed to shadowport herself there away from the city. Raven was glad. Suddenly there was a change in the air around her. Slowly but surely a transparent figure began to form before her eyes until it became opaque and vivid. It was her mother. Raven knew her mother was S. Her mother and the entire of Azurath had been K and absorbed by her father, Trigon. But they still existed in some sense. They had become what was known as phantasms. Beings of conscious state and visible form but incorporeal to those around them. "Mother," Raven said. She wanted desperately to hug the woman before her, but she knew she couldn't. Distant feelings of sadness swept through her body but she rapidly buried them with practiced ease. "Why are you here?" Raven asked in her usual monotone and crackly voice. "I'm here for you," her mother said. She had a wonderfully soft voice. Raven looked very much like her mother. Her mother had the same jewel on her Ojma chakra, the same purple hair but longer, it spread down to her waist, and her mother wore a white cloak about her that was currently placed over her head. "What do you mean?" Raven asked. "You a confused child. Your feelings are out of your control." "I can handle it," Raven said, turning away slightly. Her mother chuckled. "You sound like your friend Robin," she said. Raven turned to her slowly with a look of reluctant awareness. "You can't always refuse help, my child. Besides, you know I cannot intervene physically. I am here to offer you advice." Raven looked her in the eyes. Her mother walked up to her. She lifted a hand as if to gently stroke Raven's face, but when she touched her skin, Raven felt nothing. It was almost enough to make Raven cry. "Why does this always happen to me?" Raven said with tearful eyes and a croaky voice. Her mother didn't answer. "Your S. Raven began. Father's a monster. My friends are afraid of me. I'm not allowed to feel. And now I can't even be with the boy I like. Help me." Her voice was shaky with sorrow. Thankfully, due to the incident earlier, she was too drained of energy to cause anything to happen through her emotion. "Raven, look at me," her mother asked. Raven looked up at her. A single tear ran its way down her cheek, glistening as it went. In this world of darkness and pain there is always a light. But only if you let it be so. Meditation and frequent visits to void dimensions are not the only way to grant you control over your power. "What do you mean?" Raven asked, a bit confused. "There is another way. A way that will allow you to be with those that you care about." "Tell me." Raven was actually eager. "It is simple. You must K him." Raven's bee boiled to her face. What?" she stuttered. "When you K him you must let go. Bring him to this place." She gestured around her. "Make sure you are not in the presence of others as it could be dangerous for them. When the K is performed, you must let go of your control." Mother. It's not that I don't trust you, but isn't that dangerous?" Raven asked with raised eyebrows. "Not if you allow your power to be guided through him. Allow his body to absorb it. Make him a part of you." "That sounds a little weird," Raven said with a little blush. "It will make you connected, and give him great strength. It will mean that any feelings that you harbor towards him will no longer affect your powers." Thank you, Raven said. Raven's mother smiled. I am here for you, my child. In the future, merely call upon me, and I shall be there. And slowly Raven's mother began to fade and soon Raven was left alone. She slowly made her way back to the tower. The next few days had been a bit tense between Raven and Naruto. Naruto was convinced that Raven was avoiding him. Raven was avoiding Naruto because she was convinced that she couldn't go through with her mother's advice. After a while the comfort between each other's presence had altered to how it was before, where they could stay in the same room as the other without the need to run away. The business with K-Moth had been solved quickly. Kitten led them straight back to him and the ants arrested him. Unfortunately, when the remote control broke it released the bugs. But unfortunately for them, Cyborg had helped repair the bridge last time. He had installed some shock systems within that he had forgotten about later. When the bugs began to chew at the cabling, they were fried with electrical volts. There may have been more than before, but they were certainly taken out quicker. Naruto and Raven were alone together in the living room. Naruto had rapidly gotten the hang of the TV. He was still absolutely fascinated by the moving pictures and thought they might have been done by some sort of illusion jutsu, but Cyborg had assured him that it wasn't. Naruto sat in front of the giant scene watching a show about ninjas and found himself incredibly bored. He had given up trying to find the ninjas' faults and the places in which simple jutsus would have solved a complicated situation. These ninjas had no grasp of strategy or technique. He merely sat and watched now with a mild curiosity and began enjoying the film for what it was. Bad. Raven was on the same couch as him. She had propped herself up on 2 cushions and lay down to read. She was only a little way off from him and Naruto found it difficult to get her out of his mind. After the dance he had walked throughout the town for a little. When he arrived back at the T-Tower he had been asked questions over and over by Beast Boy, but Robin had gotten an idea about what might have happened and stopped BB from bugging him. Naruto went straight to his room and stayed there. The same basic ritual had been performed by Raven when she had entered the tower. And from then on they had barely spoke, in fact, they hadn't spoken at all. The book Raven was reading looked particularly old. It was brown and hardback. Naruto took a glance at one of the pages and his keen eye saw the lore of the book placed as a generic header of the left page. Legend of the Bayou. He smiled slightly. Raven suddenly let the book rest against her sea and she looked calm and unmoving. Naruto realized she was asleep. He knew she hadn't been sleeping. He didn't know how he knew, but he did. The cushions couldn't take the weight of her relaxed head and she slowly slid down, and before Naruto realized what had happened, she was resting on his lap. He looked down at her. Her hood was down and her face looked, for once, peaceful instead of strained. Like there was some emotion behind there after all. Naruto had noticed how she barely laughed or even smiled. Her eyes were always dull and it seemed she had no life most of the time. But he knew she had to be this way. He didn't know really why, but he had a feeling it had something to do with what happened on the boat. Naruto was suddenly stricken with the urge to kiss her forehead. I wonder what it'd be like. He slowly began to lower his head. Hey dudes, Beast Boy said as he burst through the door. Raven woke with a start and sat up quickly, picking her book up off of her seat. Naruto stood up and tried to look innocent, failing miserably. Hi, what's going on? Beast Boy said warily. Nothing, Raven just, fell asleep and, Naruto stuttered. Naruto thought that Beast Boy was going to laugh at him and joke about what he had walked in on, but instead he just stood there. With a straight look upon his face, and an unidentifiable emotion behind his eyes. Oh, I'll just leave you alone then. Beast Boy said. His voice was monotone and unreadable. It was not his joking self. Really, nothing was happening. Naruto tried to explain as Beast Boy walked away. I know. I'll just, come back later. I've got stuff to do. Beast Boy trailed off. He turned on his heel and walked away quickly. Naruto felt helpless. He knew what Beast Boy was feeling. He had seen it before. Beast Boy liked Raven. Naruto could see it, and now Naruto was in the way. Raven, we need to talk. Naruto said. About what? You do know he likes you, right? Naruto said. Beast Boy, are you sure? She asked. It's written all over his face. Naruto answered. Raven didn't remark. She hung her head, obviously in deep thought. Raven, do you, well, like me? Naruto said. A large blush suddenly erupted in his face, making him warm and slightly woozy. For the first time, it seemed that Raven had some normal color to her skin. It suddenly went pink with more blush than ever before. The lamp next to her suddenly exploded, shocking Naruto a little bit. Raven suddenly grew depressed. A sad look came on her face. What does it matter? It's not like I can be with anyone. I'm too dangerous, she said, holding onto her left arm tightly. That's not true. You're one of the most gentle people I know. Admittedly, sometimes a bit scary, but gentle nonetheless, he argued. Raven didn't look at him. She stared at her feet and merely stood there doing nothing. You don't know me, Raven said darkly. Maybe I want to, Naruto said kindly. Raven glared at him. If I feel, she began almost angrily, even just one single emotion. People could s. She looked at him in the eyes. He knew it was the truth. My power is linked to my emotions. If I lose control of them, I can't stop it. I won't hurt those I care about. I'm sorry. She flew up into the ceiling and into a black portal. Naruto just stared at the spot where she had been standing. He didn't want to have heard what she said, but he couldn't forget it. Raven arrived in her room and hurried over to her bookshelf. She didn't know how long she would last. She reached out her hand, a single black book flew into it quickly. She set candles into the air and set them down in a circle around the symbol on her floor. She found the page she wanted in an instant and began to concentrate. She opened her eyes and they were glowing bright white. Raven held her arms out and spoke the words. Azurath Aldor Metrian Ingare Talman Zinthose. She clamped her hands together as she shouted the last word and a bright light engulfed her. Soon she found herself in a place of darkness. A void. A dimension where nothing truly existed. This was her place. She cried. Raven allowed all emotion to engulf her and she cried. She screamed and cried her heart, body and soul out into the blackness. Far away from anything that may be affected. The place she cried in was created by her a few years ago after she had first joined the Ants. She had learned that it was too difficult to control her emotions all of the time without fail, and while meditation allowed her to go for months without reprieve, she eventually needed to release it. So she had created this place. A place that, when she needed it, she could go and release her emotions. Though unfortunately, she didn't always have access to this place. She needed the symbol, she needed the candles, and she needed the book. None of which she carried around with her. Raven cried out into the dark. Tears pouring out of her like a fountain. She knew she would be in here for a long while. She always was. A few hours later. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm sounded out through the tower. It was loud and insistent. The Ans and Naruto rushed into the living room and looked at the TV screen that was now being used as a computer. Large words flashed on the screen demanding attention. Warning. Code red initialized. Members of H.I.V.E. and Brotherhood detected. Robin read it in Japanese for the benefit of Naruto. Who are the Brotherhood and H.I.V.E.? Naruto asked curiously over the alarm. A group who were run by Slade. When we last caught Slade, we thought they were done for, but it seems that now Slade is back, he's running the show again. Robin answered. They're heading for the old H.I.V.E. hideout. We need to head 'em off. Robin said urgently. Ans, go, he called. They all rushed out, leaving Naruto standing there alone. Yo, little dude, Cyborg called to Naruto. You coming or what? Naruto didn't have to be told twice. He followed them out of the door and into the tower garage. There stood the T-car. Naruto had seen the T-car before and had been forced to endure a long lecture on the mechanics of it from Cyborg. But he had never ridden in it. For some reason, the very look of the thing pronounced, S-P-E-E-D. The T-car. Cyborg introduced cheerfully, his usual grin on his face. My own personal design and make, guaranteed to never break down or attack you twice. It already did once but, well, that wasn't really my fault. He said scratching his chin. He's seen it and heard the story. Now get in. Robin called. Cyborg was a little taken back but obliged the young teen and got behind the wheel. They all managed to squeeze inside, Naruto wedged between Beast Boy and Raven. Not a comfortable prospect. I hate this part, Raven muttered. Yeehaw. Cyborg cheered and put his foot down on the accelerator. The car sped forward at blinding speed. Naruto screaming in the back. They reached the destination quickly. Too quickly. Once the doors opened, Naruto jumped out as fast as he could, clutching his C as if to ram his heart into beating again. He panted heavily and felt the overwhelming need to K the earth. Robin pulled out a round device. I'm picking up movement, he said and followed the signal. What's that he got? Naruto asked Cyborg. Motion tracker, allows him to see the movement of anyone within a 100-meter radius, said Cyborg. They're behind us, Robin answered. They turned around and the three H.I.V.E. members suddenly jump out. Jinx sent several purple bolts at the teen and the ants moved out of the way quickly. The ground erupted and several large sewer pipes rose out of the ground. Naruto jumped and flipped in the air. He sent 3 kunais at Jinx, which she dodged easily by backflipping. And who are you? She asked in her high-pitched voice. Naruto looked at her properly. She wore a dark purple dress and pink skirt. She had large pink hair and light pink skin. Her eyes were purple and looking at her gave Naruto a headache. Too much pink. Other than that, she was cute. Does it matter? You're outskilled and outnumbered, he said as he created multiple Bunchen clones of himself. Jinx looked at him with surprise and fear. Your luck's just ran out, Naruto said. This made Jinx smile. All fear gone. You obviously don't know who I am, do you? She asked. She suddenly went serious and narrowed her eyes into a glare. I'm bad luck. She dived at the real him, remembering where he was, and sent an array of bolts into the area. The ground rose up and smacked Naruto in the face. His clones vanished in white puffs of smoke. Unlucky for you, I have a good memory, she cackled. Naruto flipped up and grinned at her. He wiped his nose with his thumb, jumped in the air and threw a single kunai. As the kunai was in the air, Naruto quickly did a hand sign. Shiho Happo Shuriken, he called. The single kunai that Naruto had thrown suddenly turned into many. 15 kunais now flew at Jinx. She gasped and tried to flip out the way, only managing by inches. A single kunai s her ankle, causing her to fall and wince in pain. You, she called, sending several purple bolts at Naruto. He dodged them and they hit the scaffolding, causing it to tumble to the ground, narrowly avoiding Naruto's head. Gizmo jumped onto Cyborg's back and opened up a control panel. Come here you, he laughed. Suddenly, Cyborg's motor functions went crazy. He started stumbling and running into things against his will. Gizmo cackled at the fun of it all. Cyborg got an idea. How do you like a little feedback? Cyborg said, smiling. A large jolt of electricity shocked Gizmo. His jetpack was set off and Gizmo was sent flying into the air before crashing into a wall with a large shout. That'll teach you, you little punk. Cyborg laughed. Suddenly, Cyborg was smacked from behind, sending him flying forwards. He looked and saw Mammoth standing there looking very smug. Starfire flew up behind him and grabbed his back, lifting him up into the air. She threw him across the area with ease. Please be leaving my friends alone, please, Starfire called. A large blast came out from behind Cyborg. Did you miss me? Said a voice from behind them. The teen ants turned around and saw, to their shock, Brother standing only a few feet away. He still had all of the powers that had been S from him. Hey, aren't you supposed to be S? Asked Beast Boy, slightly confused. Perhaps I am, perhaps I'm merely a ghost. Either way, he raised his version of Cyborg's sonic blaster. You won't live to find out. Naruto suddenly burst from a corner and kicked at the arm cannon. It blasted a large crater in the ground as it missed its targets. Brother raised his right hand and whacked Naruto round the face, sending him tumbling to the ground. Star bolts rained on him from above, but they barely fazed him. Starfire flew down at him, but Brother just grabbed her by the N and S her against the ground. Cyborg ran up and punched him in the face. He smacked his fists against the villain several times before his fist was caught. Brother lifted Cyborg into the air. He was about to throw him, but Beast Boy turned into a rhino and hit him head on, knocking the villain to the ground. Jinx came out of nowhere and sent purple bolts everywhere. Naruto grabbed Jinx from behind and held her still. Don't you know you're not supposed to attack a girl? Jinx said, struggling to be free. Why not? You attacked me, Naruto answered with a grin. Mammoth came up behind and grabbed Naruto, pulling him off of Jinx. A large green tail smacked against Mammoth, sending him through a nearby wall. Naruto looked up at a giant green T-Rex which quickly changed back to Beast Boy. Need some help? He asked with a sheepish laugh. Loom dude, I'm sorry about earlier. Later, Naruto said quickly, holding his hand up for silence. Thanks for the help. Robin attempted to hit brother but none of his attacks got through. On a spur of the moment, Robin jumped up out of the way of brother incoming fist, over the villain's back and quickly strapped a small satchel bomb to brother right shoulder blade. Robin dived out of the way as the satchel exploded, sending brother hurtling into a wall unconscious. Naruto jumped down from above and grabs Jinx again. The other H.I.V.E. members ran away quickly. Naruto watched them go, then smoothly released Jinx. Go, he said. Jinx was confused. Why are you letting me go? She asked. Never fight a surrendered enemy. Ninjutsu Rule 23. Plus you're injured, he said, pointing to her ankle. Jinx just stared at him. Go, before I change my mind, Naruto said firmly. Jinx blushed slightly and ran away quickly. The H.I.V.E. got away. Cyborg said. It doesn't matter, I put a tracking signal on Mammoth when he wasn't looking. It should lead us straight to their hideout. And straight to Slade, Robin said darkly. Dude, Cyborg began. What makes you think Slade's got anything to do with this? They weren't here just randomly. Somebody sent them. It was a trap. A message, Robin said. How was them getting their butts kicked a message? Beast Boy said. It's a message from Slade to me. He's back in the game. He wants us to follow the H.I.V.E. He wants us to find him. Robin said surely. His confidence was almost unnerving. Robin walked away quietly. He really is obsessed, isn't he? Naruto asked Cyborg. You have no idea, Cyborg said solemnly. Cyborg and Beast Boy sat in the living room playing their favorite racing game. They did this continually for hours at a time almost every day. They were currently going along a very windy track. Beast Boy kept managing to overtake Cyborg and was growing more confident. But then he was suddenly knocked off of the track entirely by Cyborg's vehicle. Dude, you can't do that, Beast Boy exclaimed. I just did, Cyborg said with an evil grin. What's with the noise? Naruto asked from behind them. He had been watching the race. He found it incredibly fascinating at the idea that Beast Boy and Cyborg could somehow control the vehicles on the screen. It's the alarm, the H.I.V.E. just reached their hideout, said Robin, who walked past the sofa and up to the screen. We gonna attack? Cyborg asked. Not yet. I want to take them by surprise. We'll head off in a few days. Let them get comfortable, besides, I have a plan. Robin said to them. Until then everyone relax, you'll need your strength. Robin turned to Naruto specifically. Naruto, I want to talk to you in private. Robin stated. It was not a request to see him, but more of an order. And Naruto didn't like orders. Still, he hid his annoyance. Naruto and Robin exited the room into the corridor. Robin waited until the door had closed before he turned to the ninja. What is it? Naruto asked. Me and Raven have been doing some research. And we think we might have found a way to get you home. Robin said. Really? That's cool. Naruto said excitedly. But I want to ask you a favor before you go. Robin said. Sure. What is it? Naruto asked. We need your help. I would like you to infiltrate the H.I.V.E. hideout. We've found out they're recruiting members and I think you should go in undercover. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it would be a real big help. Robin asked. Naruto thought for a moment and obviously struggled with the decision. I need time to think about this. Give me a day, Naruto asked. Robin nodded. All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow, he said and then walked away. Naruto made his way down the hall to his bedroom. There he collapsed on the bed and thought. These last 2 weeks had been the most strangest and chaotic he had ever experienced. First he got tea by the Akatsuki, then he got thrown into another dimension, now he's trying to save the new dimension he doesn't even know that much about. Things really were messed up. A knock at the door woke him from his thoughts. May I enter now please? Starfire's voice rang out from behind the door. Naruto went and opened the door to let her in. Starfire walked past him and stood there with her hands clasped at her waist in front of her. I know what Robin has asked of you. I also know it is hard. You do not have to help us. If you would rather go home, I am sure Robin or the others would feel no ill will against you, she said hastily. Starfire looked at Naruto carefully. What is waiting for you at your home? She asked. Naruto thought about this. There was only one answer to such a question. Nothing, he said quietly. My senseis think I'm a joke. My friends find me annoying at the best of times. And the only girl I like barely knows who I am. I remember what was happening to me before I came here. I was being teased by the Akatsuki. Naruto said softly. Tea, she exclaimed. Oh, how awful. She screamed and grabbed him. She pulled him into a tight hug and he thought his back would break at her strength. Please, just tell me what you need of me and I shall give it gladly, she said. He tried to say something but it came out incoherent. What? Air, he rasped out. Oh, she said quickly, letting him go. I am sorry, I sometimes forget that earthlings are not used to Tamaranian strength. Tama what? Naruto asked, looking confused. I am not of this world. My planet, Tamaran, is several light years from this one. Starfire explained. You're from out there, Naruto said, looking shocked. Do you not have aliens where you are from? She asked. No, actually we don't, he said, scratching the back of his head. Tell me about this world of yours, she asked, sitting on the bed. Well, he began, trying to find the right words to explain his home. Well, I'm constantly under attack. I'm a student at the Ninja Academy and we're kinda the world's only hope. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? Naruto said shyly. Actually, it sounds rather similar to this one. We too are constantly under attack. And we seem to be the only hope of the world many times a day, she said. Actually, this world is very different. For starters, you don't have ramen, he joked. Well, at least I haven't come across any. What is this ramen you speak of? Starfire asked. Naruto looked at her shocked. You've never had ramen? He asked. It seemed he were horrified at the idea that someone might never have tried ramen. As if it were a nightmare. Is this bad? Starfire asked cautiously. Oh no, it's huge, he suddenly screamed, making her jump and squeal slightly. Will it hurt people? She asked, looking rather frightened. Well, he thought. No, it won't. But it's still huge. How could you never have tried ramen? I could live off the stuff. I do live off the stuff. Naruto was beginning to frighten Starfire quite a bit. While he carried on ranting about ramen, she slowly crept out of the room, closing the door quietly. She could still hear him shouting from down the hall. An hour later. Has he finished in there yet? Beast Boy asked. The others shook their head and Beast Boy sagged, his arms waving at his sides. How long can one person talk about ramen? Especially seen as no one's even in the room to listen. He's talking to himself, Beast Boy yelled. All of the sudden, Naruto's ranting stopped abruptly. There was a single moment of silence before they heard a confused voice say, Hey, where'd everybody go? Naruto came out of the room and found them standing outside. A single sweat drop became visible at the side of Naruto's head. How long have you guys not been in the room? He asked. About an hour, Cyborg said simply. You wouldn't stop ranting about ramen, so Starfire just kind of left. She got us and we've been waiting for you to stop for a while now. Naruto looked a little embarrassed. Oops, he said. Anyway, have you decided whether you want to help with us or not? Robin said. Naruto looked at Robin thoughtfully. One of the major codes of the ninja, Naruto started, is to always help those in need, despite of yourself. If I turned my back on this, I would be breaking that code. Yes, I'll help you. But I'll go home the moment it's finished. Agreed. Agreed, said Robin. There is one more thing, Naruto said. Robin looked up. I can only help you with this. Once it's over, if you get in some trouble, I can't help. This and only this. Okay. That's fine. We've handled worse anyway, Robin said cheerfully. Glorious. You are now an honorarian, she said, and suddenly gave him a bone-crushing hug. Naruto was sure he heard bones breaking in her grip and was deathly relieved when she released him. Ouch, he said, and then collapsed on the floor. Cyborg looked down at him in wonder. Star, I think you K him. Beast Boy began prodding Naruto with a stick. No, he ain't he said. That was stupid of you, Starfire. You should know your own strength by now. You could have seriously hurt him. Raven said. She suddenly realized what she had said and how she had said it. The other ants looked at her bemused. Slowly grins appeared on Robin and Cyborg's faces. Raven likes Naruto. Raven likes Naruto. They began to sing in chorus. A deathly blush rushed into Raven's face, but embarrassment was soon quelled by anger. Shut up, she said. For a moment her eyes turned into 4 red ones with rage. The other ants stopped singing and backed away from her in fear. Raven turned her back on them and walked away. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.